Welcome back, everyone. So, this is the main event for tonight, another documentary about the 1979 Islamic Revolution. This documentary was recommended by one of our channel members, Scott. So, Scott, thank you for that. Scott actually gave like a whole list. So, I appreciate that, Scott, because now I have a lot of material to work with for a while. Um, so, for those of you who are new, and this is maybe your first time tuning in. So, what I do is because I speak a lot about Iran and the people's fight to overthrow the Islamic dictatorship, and how much Iranian people despise the Islamic regime. A lot of people have asked me, well, what happened? What led up to the 1979 Islamic revolution, or as I like to call it, the Islamic coup d'état? Um, And then they also asked me for, are there any documentaries that people can watch? We Iranians, we don't watch English language documentaries about the Islamic Revolution in 1979 because the vast majority of them are full of propaganda or disinformation or misinformation. There are narratives and storylines in the English language documentaries that you would never find in Persian language documentaries because um, we have our facts, and yet unfortunately, when it comes to the English language, the communists and the Islamists have really dominated dominated the narrative here. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Demorne for becoming our most recent member. Welcome, Demorne. Thank you. Make sure, Demorne, that you check out our members only tab, and you will actually find my post there where I'm asking members to give me suggestions for what you guys want me to critique. So welcome to Goldie's gang. And also just a quick message for um, followers who are watching on YouTube. دوستان اگه دارین این برنامه رو از اکس نگاه میکنین، اگر که میخواین و میتونین به زبان انگلیسی صحبت بکنین و کامنت بکنین، حتما به ما توی کانال یوتیوب هم بپیوندین، چون اونجا یه لایف چت داریم و خیلی از همیهنان اونجا هستن و دارن به زبان انگلیسی هم نظراتشون رو میدن راجع به ایران و شاهنشاه آریامه روح شاد و خب رژیم اهریمنی اسلامی. اگر که میتونین لطفا اونجا به ما بپیوندین، اگر که مایل هستین و میتونین به زبان انگلیسی هم صحبت بکنین، اگر نه همون رو X is fine. Okay, so basically for our non-Iranian viewers, I just basically invited everyone who's watching on X to join us on the live chat on YouTube if they want to contribute to the conversation. Guys, we have a special guest tonight. Apparently, Bibi Netanyahu is here. Bibi Gol, right? Like, guys, so something fun fact you might not know. We Iranians, we love Netanyahu, and we call him Bibi Gol. There's actually a song, a Persian song called Bibi Gol, which is actually about so one of the terms of endearment we use for grandmothers is Bibi, but because that's also his name, so now like we've pretty much co-opted the song, and so Bibi Gol now refers to Prime Minister Netanyahu, and it's basically just like a term of endearment, right? It's just like a song for how much we appreciate him. So thank you so much, Prime Minister, for being here and joining us, Bibi. Always great to see the Prime Minister of Israel here. And Scott, thank you so much, Scott, for gifting memberships. I actually don't know how that works, Scott. So, because you've gifted memberships before, I have no idea how that works, but I appreciate it. Um, and thank you so much for the support. And so tonight's documentary, Scott, is going to be one of the ones that you recommended in that list. So, guys, I haven't watched this documentary, but I'm feeling a little bit more hopeful about this one, okay? Because the first documentary that we watched, we gave it a rating of 3 out of 10. The second documentary we watched was basically a rating of 0 out of 10. And then the third one that we watched last night, we basically gave it a rating of middle finger out of 10 because that documentary was actually produced by Al Jazeera. And Al Jazeera, of course, is a jihadi mouthpiece for Qatar, the Muslim Brotherhood, and the Islamic Republic. So The Al Jazeera one was worse than zero. Like it was just utter nonsense. They left out so much critical information, and then they also took well-established facts and spun them and made it seem as if it was something completely else. But the good thing, at least, about watching those documentaries and critiquing them, and along with all the Iranians here, is that um, I can give my thoughts on it. So it's actually not a bad thing to go and watch the previous videos in this playlist, because I do counter the narrative, and I bring receipts, right? So even though I have a lot of criticism of those documentaries, it still gives me an opportunity to explain it, um, and provide, the actual facts about what happened. Because again, there's a lot of propaganda, a lot of disinformation, and that's because the communists and the Islamists, unfortunately, have dominated the English narrative perspective. And again, these are narratives that you would never find in Farsi language documentaries, guys. So that's why we Iranians, we don't watch English language. But guys, we are on a quest. Per your numerous requests, I am on a quest, along with all the other Iranians in the chat here, to find you the best possible documentary about what happened in the 1979, what happened that led to the 1979 Islamic Revolution. So tonight's documentary is recommended by Scott, or requested by Scott. It's called "The Revolution That Shaped Modern Iran." Now, this is the interesting part. This is why I'm feeling a little bit more hopeful about this documentary. So it starts off by saying one of the earliest instances of a constitutional movement in the Muslim world emerging was Qajar Persia at the turn of the 20th century. So guys, keep this in mind. Constitutional movement. That is critical. Okay, that is a key point here. Recognizing the inability of their leaders to prevent the misery Persia experienced during the 19th century, Persians began clamoring for a body of law that would guarantee their basic rights. This movement evolved into a revolution which would serve as the springboard for revolutionary activity which gripped the country throughout the 20th century. That part I don't really like. I don't like that part, because it's not the Persian Constitutional Revolution that encouraged future revolutions, right? Like the Persian Constitutional Revolution basically turned Iran into a constitutional monarchy, right? So right there, right, all of these people who know nothing about Iran, but they'll just be like, oh, the Shah was a dictator, the Shah was a dictator. They have no idea what actually happened in 1905. In 1905, there was a Persian Constitutional Revolution, right? You can like it's common knowledge amongst Iranians anyway. Like amongst non-Iranians, it's not as much, right? But um, this is where anyone who just says, "Do I like Israel?" Yeah, 100%. I'm a Zionist. I love Israel. I'm Israel Chai. Um, I talk about Israel in my daily live streams, but right now I'm just focusing on like documentaries about the Islamic Revolution. But so guys, this is really important. Anyone who tries to criticize the Shah of Iran as being, an authoritarian dictator, as soon as they say that, that automatically should let you know that this person either knows nothing about Iran, or they are a communist or Islamist spouting that propaganda, that fake news that led to the 1979 Islamic Revolution, okay? Because Iran was actually a constitutional monarchy. We had politicians, we had several prime ministers, right? So for these armchair experts to claim that the Shah was an authoritarian dictator, they are basically just spouting that Islamic jihadi propaganda nonsense. Because I mean, the facts are there, the history is there. So that gives me a little bit of hope about this documentary. But what I don't like is um, how they frame the rest of the revolutions, because the reason that there was civil unrest is because it was being funded by the Soviets. Because at that time, right, up until 1979, Iran actually shared a border with the Soviet bloc. And so the Soviets were trying to expand into Iran, and they actually funded communist parties in Iran to destabilize and cause unrest. And that actually happened several times. Um, the Russians were almost able to turn Iran into a proxy of the Soviet bloc at the time. And the most famous one is, of course, the Tudeh party, which was funded by the Soviets. So this sentence, I mean, it just makes it. This just kind of makes it seem like Iranians are just naturally like angry people who just want revolution constantly. That's not actually what it was. Um, it was the Soviets who were trying to destabilize the country. So old institutions were replaced with new ones, as the power of the Shah was eclipsed by a buoyant parliament that asserted its dominance on the political scene. Even though the movement was soon suppressed, its impact would come to shape. Okay, so when they say even though the movement was soon suppressed, I have a feeling that this is going to now unfortunately turn into one of those like Mossadegh was democratically elected nonsense, right? So let's see how this goes. I want to be optimistic, guys. So I'm going into this with I'm going to start at a 5. I'm going to start at a 5 and then let's see how it goes because 5 is neutral, but I don't like how they're framing this. So yeah, let's get started. Okay. Here we go.
The Islamic world in the modern period can justifiably be criticized for its lack of institutional stability. Leaders and ideologies often change dramatically. Government policies can seem as an extension of a leader's whims. Historical analysis teaches us that a key component which can prevent this from happening is the presence of a constitution, a basic charter of laws that defines a nation-state. One of the earliest instances of a constitutional movement in the Muslim world emerging was Qajar Persia at the turn of the 20th century. Recognizing the inability of their leaders to prevent the misery Persia experienced during the 19th century, Persians began.
So I just want to explain something as well. So the Qajar dynasty, okay, they were probably in power for I think about 300 years or something. They were basically subservient to the Ottomans, okay? The Qajar dynasty were incredibly corrupt. They were incredibly backwards. They were the type of dynasty that just stole all of Iran's money, and Iranians were incredibly poor. So the 1906 Constitutional Revolution was basically because Iranians were seeing that the Qajars were falling under the influence of the Soviets too much, and so they kind of wanted to take that back, right? And then eventually, I don't know how this documentary is going to frame it. I mean, we have to wait and see. But eventually, what led to a change in ruling families, right? Because in I believe it was 1925, it went from Qajar to Pahlavi, right? With Reza Shah the Great. Again, we call Reza Shah the Great the founder of modern day Iran, the father of modern day Iran. And the reason that he came into power was because the Qajar dynasty was so corrupt that the Iranian parliament at the time, again, the democratically elected parliament, had lost faith in the current ruler, and so they wanted a new one. So that's how the Pahlavi dynasty came in the 1925. So it was because this Qajar dynasty was incredibly corrupt, and they didn't do anything for Iran. And like prior to the Pahlavi dynasty taking over, Iran was literally like a third world, undeveloped backwater place.
Clamoring for a body of law that would guarantee their basic rights. This movement evolved into a revolution which would serve as a springboard for the revolutionary activity which gripped the country throughout the 20th century. Old institutions were replaced with new ones, as the power of the Shah was eclipsed by a buoyant parliament that asserted its dominance on the political scene. Even though the movement was soon suppressed, its impact would come to shape Iranian politics and society ever since.
So already this is kind of giving me AI vibes. Not as bad as the other AI generated documentary that we saw, but I don't know. Like this is sort of giving me AI vibes here.
The 19th century was a period of crisis for Persia. The royal dynasty in charge, the Qajars, had lost 2 wars early on to the Russian Empire, losing Armenia and Azerbaijan in the process. In the east, the Afghans had cemented their rule over the city of Herat. Whilst their adversaries, the Ottomans, were instituting reforms to streamline their administration, the Qajars were falling behind, with their governance model relying on a highly decentralized system that was prone to extreme corruption. According to a survey from the British Foreign Office at the time, there are large tracts of fertile land which remain waste owing to their proximity to the main roads. As no village having cultivators on such spots can possibly prosper or enjoy the least immunity from the pestering visits of government officials and thefts and robberies committed by the tribes. Ordinary Persians were not oblivious to their government's ineffectiveness, especially since European imperial powers were imposing their will and domination on the country. In 1870,
That's the other thing as well. Like people always complain the Pahlavi dynasty of being like puppets of the West. It's actually the complete opposite. It was the Qajar dynasty. But again, all these like armchair experts who aren't Iranian, and they have no clue about Iranian history, like they probably have never even heard of the Qajar dynasty, and they probably don't even know that Iran had a like constitutional revolution in the early 1900s, right? So again, like all of these non-Iranians have an expert, have like an opinion and think they're experts, and yet none of them even know anything about the Qajar dynasty or even know that they existed, right?
1872, Nasser al-Din Shah Qajar signed a contract with Paul Reuter, a British businessman and founder of Reuters news agency, that saw the Iranian ruler concede control over Persian roads, factories, extraction of resources, amongst other things, in exchange for 60% of net revenue and a fixed sum. British statesman Lord Curzon called it the most complete and extraordinary surrender of the entire industrial resources of a kingdom into foreign hands that has probably ever been dreamed of, much less accomplished in history.
That's 100% true. Like the Qajar dynasty at the time, guys, these were just like very incompetent people who were basically just smoking opium all the time and just living lavish lives. And then I think eventually he was like running out of money, so that's why they signed this deal, right? But again, this is not the Pahlavi dynasty. This is the Qajar dynasty. So all of these non-Iranian experts, quote unquote, who claim that the Shah was a puppet of the West, it's literally the complete opposite. It was the Qajar dynasty. But these people don't understand anything about Iranian history, and so they just spout the Islamist propaganda that was pushed by the jihadis and the communists in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s in order to overthrow, in order to delegitimize the Shah and overthrow him, right? But the reality is that he was not. None of them were Western puppets. It was the Qajar dynasty that actually were the Western puppets of the time.
Thankfully for Iran, public outrage reached the point that the Shah was forced to back down. Some 20 years later, however, the same long-ruling Nasser al-Din Shah was forced to renege on another foolish and humiliating concession. This time he allowed Englishman Major G.F. Talbot complete monopolization on the production, sale and export of tobacco. Much of Persian society consumed tobacco, so it affected almost all of the country. In addition, certain segments of the Bazaris, the merchant class, had their livelihoods dependent on the cash crop. Fearing for their job security, the Bazaris protested. They allied themselves with the ulama, the religious clergy, to form a powerful alliance that would serve as the bedrock of all future revolutionary episodes inside the country. Mirza Shirazi, the most important religious authority in the country.
It's always the clerics, guys. It's literally always the religious clerics that cause problems, right? Like these people have been causing problems in Iran for like over a century. And they have no shame about it, no shame.
Country issued a fatwa against the use of tobacco. Persian society was galvanized. Almost immediately there was a
Yeah, Omid, you're 100% right. Like when you see that black turban, 100%, just like run, run, run.
near total boycott of tobacco use, as Persians demonstrated their desperate determination by foregoing one of their favorite pastimes. Within 2 months, the Shah was forced to rebuke the agreement. But the damage had likely been done already. Persians across all strands of society became convinced that their rulers were incompetent and did not have their best interests at heart.
That's true. The Qajar dynasty were completely incompetent and they did not have the best interests of the Iranian people at heart.
Something had to change. In 1896, while preparing celebrations for the 50th anniversary of his reign, Nasr al-Din Shah was assassinated by a bankrupt trader who had studied under Jamaluddin Afghani. The new monarch, Muzaffar al-Din Shah, continued in his father's footsteps by mismanaging the country's finances. In 1901, he sold a monopoly over oil exploration in central and southern Persia to British businessman William Darcy. This deal would play a big role in precipitating the revolutionary politics of Muhammad Mossadegh some 4 decades later. At the same time, tariffs on native merchants were increased, and the Shah
Let's go back. Let's go back. Pay attention to what he said there because that's going to become relevant later on, okay? Like that, there's just like that name
exploration again. In central and southern Persia to British businessman William Darcy. This deal would play a big role in precipitating the revolutionary politics of Muhammad Mossadegh some 4 decades later. At the same time, tariffs on native merchants were increased, and the Shah took out massive loans from Britain and Russia to pay for the government's expenditure.
So again, like all these people who claim the Shah was a puppet of the West, they literally have no idea which Shah they're talking about. The Shah that was a puppet of the West were the ones who were part of the Qajar dynasty, which came before the Pahlavis, right? They were the ones in power prior to 1925. Those were the Shahs that were puppets of the West, as you can see, not the current Pahlavi dynasty. Anyone who claims that the Pahlavi dynasty were puppets of the West are either ignorant or they're just like spouting that, again, the Islamist jihadi propaganda because they want to try and delegitimize the Shah, the Pahlavi Shahanshah Aryamir, because that's the only way that they can legitimize the Islamic takeover of Iran in 1979.
To appease his European lenders, Muzaffar al-Din Shah appointed Monsieur Naus, a Belgian, as the country's Director General of Customs. For the typical Iranian, they could not understand why their ruler was helping the Europeans at the expense of Iranians.
Again, so who was the Western puppet here? It wasn't the Pahlavi dynasty, it was the Qajar dynasty, right? But again, people who are ignorant about the history of Iran don't know this, or they are purposely spreading misinformation because they're on the side of the Islamic terrorists who took over Iran in 1979.
Mind-bogglingly, Muzaffar al-Din Shah also relaxed controls over censorship, allowing for the proliferation of liberal newspapers and general political expression. As Persia and the wider Islamic world was experiencing a crisis in governance, or perhaps as a result of it, new political ideas were emerging that promised reform and vigor. The Dar al-Fanun and the Faculty of Law and Political Science became hubs for the production of these ideas. Whilst the Qajar's attempt at reform and modernization was largely pitiful at best, they did set up a few modern education institutions that went on to shape young intellectuals. As such, a growing voice emerged within Persian intelligentsia that believed the constitution should be a prerequisite for the stability and prosperity of their nation, a basic charter which defined the laws and identity of the state. All the European countries had them after all, and they were doing really well. This voice believed the constitution would hold the ruler to a certain standard and prevent a weak government that struggles to function. With so much of the nation.
So do you see this, guys? So do you see like there was literally constitution in place. So anyone who claims that the Shah was a dictator literally knows nothing, or they are supportive of the Islamic dictatorship that is holding Iranians hostage.
United by a disdain for the inefficiencies and corruption of the government, and with the backing of such important segments of society, the Bazaris had numbers and money, the ulama had even more numbers, and their moral prestige afforded them great respect and thus authority. Not to forget the burgeoning intelligentsia that gave them political vernacular and direction. By the turn of the 20th century, the conditions for revolution were in place. Incompetent governance, foreign enemies who constantly humiliated the nation, and popular forces that desperately wanted change. Now all that was needed was a spark. Early on in 1905, the country would face a sharp economic crisis. There was a poor harvest, which for an agrarian society like Persia was devastating. The suffering was compounded by events in neighboring Russia. Despite being one of the most feared empires, Russia's domestic affairs were in disarray. No amount of imperial grandeur could cover up the fact that many ordinary Russians experienced a standard of living comparable to the poor, weak countries it was conquering. So when the Japanese humiliated Russia in their war of 1905, ordinary Russians saw their opportunity to rise up in revolt against the Tsar. Not only did this spur on the Persian political ideologues, considering the only Asian state with a constitution had defeated the only major European state without one, the disruption caused by events in Russia severely impacted trade also. Food prices rose drastically in all the major cities. At the same time, a cholera epidemic broke out. The desperation of the country's citizens was perfectly captured by a local cleric when he addressed Qajar authorities.
عالی حضرت، حوزه شما رو به وخامت است. بندگان شما به گدایی تقلیل یافتند. آنها مورد ظلم و استثمار فرمانداران و مقاماتی هستند که طعم و تشنگی خون آنها حد و مرز ندارد. سال گذشته مالیات دهندگانی که نمی توانستند پول نقد پرداخت کنند مجبور شدند دختران خود را به ترکمنها و بازرگانان ارمنی بفروشند و سپس آنها را به بردگی در روسیه فروختند. هزاران بندگان شما مجبور شدند از این ظلم فرار کنند و به روسیه مهاجرت کنند. اگر چاره ای اندیشیده نشود، کشور از بین خواهد رفت. سیستان و بلوچستان را انگلیسی ها تصرف خواهند کرد، روس ها بخشای دیگر و عثمانی ها طرحهای خاص خود را دارند. عالی حضرت، به مصیبت 15 میلیون روحی که در ترس زندگی شدند، تصوت بیگانگان زندگی می‌کنند گوش دهید.
Iranians had had enough. Protests began in June 1905, at first as peaceful processions whereby shopkeepers communicated their requests to the government, which were to dismiss Monsieur Naus and to repay the loans the government had borrowed from small business owners. Even though Muzaffar al-Din Shah initially seemed willing to fulfill these wishes, which led to reduced protests, it quickly became apparent that he had no intention of following up on them. Subsequently, public dissent resumed all throughout the year and into 1906. In the summer of that year, the police shot dead a religious student, causing a chain of events that saw tensions and violence escalate. In July 1906, two merchants traveled to the British legation in Tehran to seek bast, a custom respected since ancient times that was equivalent to sanctuary or asylum. The number of the basti grew to 14,000 within a few weeks. The British diplomats watched with astonishment as the gardens of their embassy were transformed into what an Iranian eyewitness called one vast open-air school of political science, as dangerous new ideas were freely discussed, whilst lectures were given on different European constitutional systems. With the trio of forces responsible for spearheading all three of Iran's 20th century revolutions, the Bazaris, the ulama, and the liberal intellectuals, it felt as if this round of protests would be different from previous.
So guys, we're about 12 minutes in, and so far, I am I'm pretty okay with what's being said so far, because one of the things I like about this particular documentary so far is that it actually gives pretty good input and insight into Iran in the late 19th century, early 20th century. And what happened then is actually pretty critical to understanding what happens down the road. Not the way that I think this documentary is going to describe it, but it definitely is important, especially because it lays the groundwork for the fact that all of the lies that the Islamic regime, the Ayatollahs, and also the communists, all the lies they spread about the Shah, the Shah being a Western puppet or whatever, it's all it was all really about the Qajar dynasty, right? It was the Qajar dynasty that was weak. So right now, when they're referring to the Shah, they're referring to the Shahs from the previous dynasty, because we haven't even reached the Pahlavi dynasty yet. That happens in 1925. But a lot of people don't know about the Persian Constitutional Revolution. They don't know about the fact that we were actually a constitutional monarchy as of 1906, and we had parliamentarians and all of that stuff. So far, I mean, we're about halfway in. I think it's like a 33-minute documentary. We're about 12 minutes in, and I haven't had that many comments so far. So, I mean, I'm still at a 5. But let's see what happens when they get to the Pahlavi dynasty, because that's where we're really going to find out where the intentions lie and where the bias lies with this particular documentary.
Previous ones that seemed smaller in scope and ambition. On August 5th, the Shah appointed a senior official with liberal views as prime minister and signed a proclamation convening a constituent national assembly. A few months later, elections were held for the Majlis.
Yeah, Omid, you're 100% right. Like the Al Jazeera one we watched last night, I had to pause like every 2 seconds to call out another lie, because it was like every word that came out of that documentary was 100% a lie.
As the assembly was known. On December 30th, 1906, the Shah signed the constitution, which was modeled on the Belgian constitution. The protesters had won, but the real struggle to implement change would now begin. Almost immediately, there was an explosion of intellectual and political activity. Dozens of radical newspapers and political organizations appeared. Within the Majlis, 3 main political factions emerged: the Royalists.
So guys, Majlis is basically the Persian word for parliament. So if you hear Majlis, it just means parliament. And these are all like Iranian politicians, right? So again, anyone who claims that like the Shah was a dictator literally has no understanding of Iranian politics or history, because we have had democratically elected parliamentarians in the Majlis since like 1906.
Who were few and grossly unpopular, the moderates, who formed the vast majority and received valuable support from the Bazari community, as well as key ulama like Ayatollahs Tabatabai and Behbahani, and the liberals, who represented the small but assertive intelligentsia. Only a few days after the constitution was ratified, the Shah died and was succeeded by his son Muhammad Ali. Unfortunately for most of the Majlis, the new Shah wanted to restore the absolutism of his grandfather Nasr al-Din Shah. The two forces clashed on what the exact nature of the new government should look like, with the Majlis seeking to dilute royal authority as much as possible, whilst Muhammad Ali Shah wanted to reinstate autocratic rule. Dismayed by the resistance of the new monarch, protests erupted once again throughout Iran. The protesters were in no mood to go back to Qajar despotism and showed that they were willing to defend the constitution through violent means, mobilizing small forces of armed volunteers. In August 1907, the pro-monarchist prime minister was assassinated outside the parliament building by a money lender from Tabriz, who promptly committed suicide after. The assassin's funeral was said to have been attended by 100,000 mourners to demonstrate support for the revolution. The Shah, intimidated by the zeal and strength of numbers, quickly conceded to the Majlis by vowing to respect the constitution. In the same month, with the country busy with its political transformation, Britain and Russia took advantage by holding a convention whereby they split Persia into zones of influence. The constitutionalists were infuriated that their country's destiny was being decided for them by foreigners. An even bigger issue was arising within Parliament, as the Liberals sought to push forward with far-reaching reforms that would invariably offend the conservative nature of Iranian society. Publications associated with the liberal cause, such as the journal Surah-e Israfil, put forward the case for secularism by suggesting that the ulama should stay out of politics. But to suggest something so unrealistic not only undermined the constitution, which despite being Belgian-inspired was rooted in Sharia law, but more importantly it would show a great degree of ignorance about the socio-political makeup of the land. It is tough to overstate the degree of authority the ulama hold over Iranian society.
Guys, Ilama, he's referring to the clerics, right? Like the Islamic clerics, right? They maintain. So basically, the reason that the Islamists and the communists hate the Shah, the late Shah of Iran, Shahanshah Aryameh, God rest his soul. We love him, by the way. This is a pro Shah channel, by the way. This is a pro Pahlavi channel. Just want to put it out there. We are 100% pro Pahlavi here, like the vast majority of Iranians. So just want to put it out there. But the reason that the Islamists always try to smear the Shah and put out all this, like, fake propaganda about him is because prior to the Pahlavi dynasty taking over in 1925, it was the Islamic clergy that were in charge. And then when the Pahlavi dynasty came in, they began a very ambitious project to modernize Iran, starting with Reza Shah the Great, of course, the founder of the modern day Iran, and then his son Shahanshah Aryameh, the previous Shah of Iran. He implemented something called the White Revolution. So did you hear about how, like, in the early 1900s, the liberals were trying to secularize Iran, and then the Islamic clerics didn't like that? Back then they were too powerful, so they stopped it. However, when the late Shah was in power in 1963, he actually did modernize Iran, and in 1963 he gave Iranian women the right to vote. In fact, women in Iran had the right to vote before women in countries like Switzerland and Portugal and Sweden, and that pissed off the Islamic clerics. So one of the main reasons the Islamic clerics began to smear the Shah and put out all these lies about him in order to delegitimize him was because they wanted to return they basically wanted to turn Iran into a 7th century Islamic hellhole. Like, they did not like the fact that the Shah was giving women the right to vote. Like, that offended them, right? And the Islamic clergy didn't like the fact that the Shah was turning Iran into a secular modern country. So the reason that they called him a dictator is because the Shah told these people that you don't get a say in politics anymore because you're clergy, right? And so because the Shah was preventing Islamism and communism from taking over the country, the same people who are now, ruling the country and are war criminals, they're the ones who are calling him a dictator. Meanwhile, they are the actual dictators. I just wanted to point that out, give you a little bit of context here. All right, let's go back a little bit because now like when they say the ilama, ilama means like the Islamic clergy.
Not only undermined the constitution, which despite being Belgian-inspired was rooted in Sharia law, but more importantly it would show a great degree of ignorance about the socio-political makeup of. Tough to overstate the degree of authority the ulama hold over Iranian society. a grassroots level. As such, the radical propositions of the liberals began to undermine the unity of the Majlis, as the moderates, their huge ulama backing, started to become alienated from their constitutional. To make matters worse for the Majlis, the economic woes of the country had not improved, or increased food prices continued. The deputies of the Majlis had announced a budget that, in an attempt to balance the books, actually affected thousands of people employed by the royal court in Tehran. This provided the royalists an opportunity to break its political isolation. Up until late 1907, supporters of the Shah had virtually no voice. Such was the scale of the constitutional victory. The royalists achieved their first major victory when they recruited Sheikh Fazlullah Nouri to their cause. Nouri had originally joined his fellow ulama Behbahani and Tabatabai in supporting the protests of 1906, but had become worried about the secularizing drive of the constitutionalists, who he eventually referred to as heathens. Many Iranian supporters of democracy have since thought of Nouri as a lackey or puppet for the Qajars. But his concerns regarding some of the reforms intended by the constitutionalists had very real grounding amongst the ulama, who feared that these reforms were masking a westernization of Iran's culture. And it's for this reason that the Islamist regime in charge of Iran today ended up revering Sheikh Nouri. For the first time, pro-Shah protests began to be held. By June 1908, the Shah, having recruited more of the public and even a few tribal contingents, was ready to strike back against the Majlis. The Qajars had a trump card, the Cossack Brigade. Modeled after the Cossack regiment of the Russian Imperial Army, it was the most effective military unit in Persia. It was from this brigade that Reza Shah, the founder of the Pahlavi dynasty, would emerge. With the help of this elite military unit, Muhammad Shah Qajar initiated a coup d'etat whereby the Cossack...
Wait, did he just mispronounce? Wait, did he just mispronounce the name? Okay, wait, let me go back here. I thought I misheard this.
of Iran today ended up revering Sheikh Nouri. For the first time, grounding amongst the ulama, who feared that these reforms were masking a westernization of Iran. Nouri. First time, pro-Shah protests against contingents was ready to strike back against the Majlis. The Qajars had a trump card, the Cossack Brigade, unit in Persia. It was from this brigade that Reza Shah, the founder of the
So we love Reza Shah the Great. Reza Shah the Great, he is the founder of modern day Iran. We love him. He is amazing. He's literally the reason why Iran is the country it is today, because he began that ambitious project to build and industrialize Iran, and he turned Iran he basically inherited like a backwaters, poor third world country from the Qajar dynasty, and he turned it into a thriving modern industrialized country. So we absolutely love Reza Shah the Great.
Pahlavi dynasty would emerge. With the help of this elite military unit, Muhammad Shah Qajar initiated a coup d'etat whereby the Cossack Brigade bombed the Majlis and subsequently suppressed its members and supporters in the capital.
Okay, so that is the first red flag for me, okay? It's not like Reza Shah the Great just randomly bombed the Majlis and attacked. So, okay, so that is 100% propaganda. So, all right, guys, like my red flags are going off. So I was at like a 5. I'm at like a 3 right now. So let me tell you exactly what happened. Okay, so what happened in that time? Oh gosh, what year was it again? Like it was basically the communists took over. The communists took over, And then, okay, let me go back and let me just find the year again. I think it was like 1921. But so basically it was like this communist brigade that took over. Okay, let me find this, guys. I'll be right back. Let me just find this. Uh, um, Here we go. Okay, I found it. Let me pull it up. This is the thing, like you never know what false propaganda you're going to get in these sorts of documentaries. So, okay, let me pull this up for you guys. So, this documentary just claimed that Reza Shah just randomly bombed Majlis, right? Which is the farthest thing from the truth. Let me explain to you exactly what happened. So, what this documentary has failed to mention so far is that the Soviets at the time were actually trying to gain control of Iran. They didn't like the fact that, Iran was allied with the UK at the time. So it's the 1921 Persian coup d'etat, guys, okay? The 1921 Persian coup d'etat. Um, so it refers to several major events in Qajar, Persia in 1921, which eventually led to the deposition of the Qajar dynasty and the establishment of the Pahlavi dynasty as the ruling house of Iran in 1925. Okay, so this part's it's important. So the events began with a coup. I don't like this. Like, why is Wikipedia so terrible at this? Like, this was not a coup. What basically happened is that the Soviets had taken over the parliament, right? It was this communist Marxist group that was funded by the Soviets at the time. And then the Cossack Brigade came and they freed people who were being held hostage there, right? Here we go. So, okay, this is what it is. It's right here. So, I don't know, like this is so weird. So they call it a coup, right? So they claim that this started with a coup, but then when you go further down, this is why you can't trust Wikipedia either, right? So because it's so contradictory. So here's what it is. In the late 1920s, the Persian Soviet Socialist Republic was preparing to march on Tehran with a guerrilla force of 1,500 Jangaris, Kurds, Armenians, and Azerbaijanis, reinforced by the Bolsheviks' Red Army. Okay, so literally these Marxists, okay, that were reinforced and funded by the Bolsheviks were trying to take over the country, right? Because Tehran, right? Tehran is the capital of Iran. So the Persian Soviet Socialist Republic, right? They wanted to turn Iran into like a Marxist communist proxy of the Soviets. So this fact, along with various other disorders, mutiny, and acute political crisis in the capital. By 1921, the ruling Qajar dynasty of Persia had become corrupt and efficient. The oil-rich nation was somewhat reliant on the nations of Britain and Russia for military and economic support. Civil wars earlier in the decade had threatened the government, and the only regular military force at the time was the Cossack Brigade. So the Qajar Shah in 1921 was Ahmad, who had been crowned at the age of 11. He was considered to be a weak, incompetent ruler, especially after British, Russian, and Ottoman occupations of Persia during World War I. All right, here we go. So on 14 January 1921, the British general Edmund Ironside chose to promote Reza Khan, Reza Shah the Great, who had been leading the Tabriz battalion to lead the entire Cossack Brigade. About a month later, under British direction, Reza Khan's 3,000 to 4,000 strong detachment of the Cossack Brigade reached Tehran. The reason that Reza Khan took the Cossack Brigade, in Farsi it's Beydar Ghazaq, The reason he took them to Tehran is because the Persian Soviet Socialist Republic had taken over. Okay, so for this documentary to just claim that Riza Khan just went to Majlis and attacked it without providing the context um, doesn't make any sense. Like like you're literally missing half the story here. You're missing the most critical aspect of the story. What that documentary didn't mention is that the Marxists, funded by the Soviets, had taken over the capital and they were keeping people hostage. And so Reza Shah the Great went to the capital, Tehran, and he freed the capital. Because even the Shah, okay, the Qajar Shah at the time was being held hostage by the Persian Soviet Socialist Republic, okay? But that documentary made it seem like Reza Khan just randomly showed up and attacked, which is the farthest thing from the truth. So the fact that this documentary, so what minute are we at here? Let me see how far along we're in. Give me a moment here. So okay, so up into so the first 17 minutes of this documentary, you know, I'm okay with, like, no issue. But as soon as it gets to the Pahlavi dynasty, the fact that they literally choose to exclude the most important parts about what happened in 1921, like they literally fail to mention that at the time that Reza Shah the Great went to Tehran with the Cossack Brigade, he went there because Tehran was being held hostage by the Soviets, right? So communism was trying to take over Iran, and Reza Shah the Great actually freed Iran and saved Iran. And by the way, those communists were also holding the Shah of Iran at the time hostage, right? So Reza Khan at the time, not only did he free Tehran, but he freed the Shah, which had been held hostage by the communists. He freed the Shah at the time and put him back on the throne. Okay, so that's like just, I don't know. Let me go back a little bit, but I'm not liking this. Like up until 17 minutes, it was fine, but now it's like right away they started with their anti-Pahlavi propaganda.
For the first time, pro-Shah protests began to be held. By June 1908, the Shah, having recruited more of the public and even a few tribal contingents, was ready to strike back against the Majlis. The Qajars had a trump card, the Cossack Brigade. Modeled after the Cossack regiment of the Russian Imperial Army, it was the most effective military unit in Persia. It was from this brigade that Reza Shah, the founder of the Pahlavi dynasty, would emerge. With the help of this elite military unit, Muhammad Shah Qajar initiated a coup d'etat whereby the Cossack Brigade bombed the Majlis and subsequently suppressed its members and supporters in the capital.
So again, so they completely failed to mention that this was done because the communists had taken the country hostage, right? Like you had Russian-funded communists who were holding the capital hostage, but this documentary fails to mention that. So already, I was at a 5. Right now, I'm at like a 3. Yeah, I'm at a 3 out of 10 right now.
The National Assembly was then dissolved and martial law was declared in Tehran, with the Russian leader of the Cossacks appointed as its military governor. Leading constitutionalists who failed to escape were executed or imprisoned. A period known as the Minor Tyranny inaugurated the return of absolutism. But the capture of Tehran by royalist forces was not decisive. Armed volunteers emerged in defense of the revolution in most major cities, most importantly in Tabriz, which became the main center of resistance. Under the command of Sattar Khan and his lieutenant Bakir Khan, the constitutionalists resisted a force sent by the Shah to bring the city to submission. For 11 months, Tabriz was besieged, with food and
This is so weird. Like, they still have not mentioned the fact that these people were the communists and the Marxists, and they were being funded by Soviet Russia. Like, you cannot have an accurate documentary um, about what happened in Iran in the early 1900s unless you talk about the fact that Russia was trying to infiltrate, and in fact it was Russia who was funding and creating all of these Marxist Soviet communist parties in Iran, because again, Iran and the Soviets shared a border, so there was a lot of Soviet communist infiltration into Iran. The fact that this documentary hasn't even like brought that up, or hasn't even mentioned the fact that there was significant Russian influence, which is a well-known fact, amongst Iranians in Persian language documentaries. Um, this is wild to me. Like, this is like, you're not getting the full picture here, because they're literally, I don't know if it's deliberately or whether if it's by pure ignorance, but they are missing half the story, and half the story is the Soviet Russian communist influence.
Provisions not allowed to reach its inhabitants, thus leading to famine-like conditions. Several efforts to break the siege were defeated, including one led by Howard Baskerville, a young American teacher at the American Memorial School, which resulted in his death. Finally, in April 1909, citizens of Tabriz found some relief when Britain, Russia, and France agreed that a Russian force should be sent to occupy the city. But the heroic resistance of Tabriz inspired others throughout the country to similarly take up arms and oppose the Shah. In Esfahan, the Bakhtiari clan had ousted the Shah's governor and taken control of the city.
I don't understand. So a few minutes ago, they were talking about what was happening in the 1920s, but now all of a sudden they've gone back to 1909. So this is a little bit confusing here for me. And now they've suddenly brought up Russia, but they bring up the fact that they're appeasing Russia, but they never actually talked about the Russian destabilization. This is getting a little bit confusing for me. It doesn't seem like it's in chronological order here.
For themselves. Soon they began their march towards Tehran, whilst in the north the forces under Sattar Khan, having expelled from Tabriz, also marched towards the capital.
Okay, so this is very, very weird. I don't know, like, this is maybe like AI slop or something, I'm not sure. But the coup that they talked about, the coup in quotations, because it wasn't actually a coup, the coup with Reza Khan and the Cossack Brigade happened in 1920, and it was basically they were reclaiming Tehran from Soviet control. They mentioned that earlier, but now all of a sudden they've gone back to like 1909, which is incredibly confusing. It's not making, like, I'm able to call out the discrepancies, but if someone's, for those who are not familiar with this, um, it's very difficult to follow along, and it's incredibly confusing. Um, Thank you, Jane. I appreciate that so much. Thank you for the super sticker. I hope you're enjoying the live stream.
The royalist position inside Tehran had deteriorated greatly, with the civil war worsening the pre-existing economic crisis. So on July 13, 1909, when constitutionalist forces appeared before the city gates, they were able to assert their dominance over it within 5 days. A makeshift constituent assembly was formed, promptly declaring that Muhammad Ali Shah was to be deposed and replaced with his 12-year-old son, Ahmad. Leading royalists were tried and imprisoned, or as in the case of Sheikh Fazlullah Nouri, executed. The revolution had been rescued. The Majlis resumed its duties with renewed vigor when it reopened in November 1909. It soon negotiated the withdrawal of almost all.
Okay. So let me just pull something up here. I just want to show you guys like how confusing this is right now, okay? So, where is this? Wait. Let me just find this. Okay. Okay. So this is why I want to show you why this documentary like is incredibly confusing right now, and they're all over the place. And they're not portraying, not only are they not portraying the facts accurately, they're not even portraying it in chronological order. So they spoke about Reza Khan like about, maybe 5 minutes ago, and they said that, the British promoted him to lead the Cossack Brigade, and then he led the coup in Tehran. So when he was appointed as the leader of the Cossack Brigade, that was in February 1921, okay? So wait, here we go. So this is Reza Shah the Great. By the way, we love Reza Shah the Great, the founder of modern day Iran. We love him. Reza Shah Ruhat Shad. So um, he became the leader of the Cossack Brigade in February 21, and that's when he marched towards the capital of Tehran, and he seized it. Right, again, he seized it from the communists who were funded by the Soviets and had taken control of the capital. Okay, so that happened in 1921, and yet this documentary talked about that like 5 minutes ago, but now all of a sudden, and they never mentioned the fact that Tehran was being held hostage by the Soviets, right? And the Persian Soviet Communist Marxist Terrorist Party, whatever, right? They don't mention that. They just claim that he just randomly went and did that in 1921. But now all of a sudden they're back in 1909, if I'm not mistaken. So let's go back. Guys, pay attention because this documentary is not in chronological order. So I'm thinking that whoever made this documentary basically just relied on AI or something. The first 17 minutes of it were okay, but after that 17-minute mark, it's pretty much complete and utter nonsense at this point because they just don't know what they're talking about. So again, like what they're talking about with Riza Khan did not happen until 1921, but this documentary puts it much earlier, and now they're back talking about 1909. Like it's very very strange. Like this is very low
Russian
quality.
troops in
All right, so let's go back and let's see what they're
taken
saying here.
control of the city for themselves. Citizens of Tabriz found some relief
Like I can't even tell what year this is right now.
when Britain, Russia, and France agreed that a Russian force should be sent to occupy the city. But the heroic resistance of Tabriz inspired others throughout the country to similarly take up arms and oppose the Shah. In Esfahan, the Bakhtiari clan had ousted the Shah's governor and taken control of the city for themselves. Soon they began their march towards Tehran, whilst in the north,
Okay, when did that happen, guys? When did the Bakhtiaris do that? I should know this because I'm a Lord Bakhtiari, but I always forget. Bakhtiari on like what year was that? Let me find it. Yeah, so again, like so this is happening. So these are events of the 1920s, but now he's going to go back and he's going to mention like 1909 again,
the
right?
forces under Sattar Khan, having been expelled from Tabriz, also marched towards the capital. The royalist position inside Tehran had deteriorated.
Chadwick is saying they went back after to explain why he led the coup. Okay, I mean maybe that was it, but okay, so why don't we go back because we're only about 2 minutes in after that. So okay, so Chadwick, why don't we go back? So let's see how they present this because I don't know, maybe I missed this, but Like up until the 17-minute mark, everything seemed to make sense. And now like it got confusing. So I don't know, maybe it's just me, but let's see. So I went back to the 1704 mark.
For the Qajars. But his concerns regarding some of the reforms intended by the constitutionalists had very real grounding amongst the ulama, who feared that these reforms were masking a westernization of Iran's culture. And it's for this reason that the Islamist regime in charge of Iran today ended up revering Sheikh Nouri. For the first time, pro-Shah protests began to be held. By June 1908, the Shah, having recruited more of the public and even a few tribal contingents, was ready to strike back against the Majlis. The Qajars had a trump card, the Cossack Brigade. Modeled after the Cossack regiment of the Russian.
See, this is why it gets confusing for me, because he says by 1909, the Qajar Shah was ready to strike back, and it was the Cossack Brigade, which was ruled by Reza Shah. So I don't know, maybe I got this part wrong, but let's see.
Imperial army, it was the most effective military unit in Persia. It was from this brigade that Reza Shah, the founder of the Pahlavi dynasty, would emerge.
Yeah, and you can like so guys, you can also see, I mean, this part's accurate. So Reza Shah the Great did not become the Shah until 1925. So that's important, guys, okay?
With the help of this elite military unit, Muhammad Shah Qajar initiated a coup d'etat whereby the Cossack Brigade bombed the Majlis and subsequently suppressed its members and supporters in the capital. The National Assembly was then dissolved and martial law was declared in Tehran.
So they're making it seem as if, so they talk about Reza Shah the Great, and then they go back and they talk about the previous Shah using the Cossack Brigade to bomb Tehran. That part's a little bit confusing.
The Russian leader of the Cossacks appointed as its military governor. Leading constitutionalists who failed to escape were executed or imprisoned. A period known as the Minor Tyranny inaugurated the return of absolutism. But the capture of Tehran by royalist forces was not decisive. Armed volunteers emerged in defense of the revolution in most major cities, most importantly in Tabriz, which became the main center of resistance. Under the command of Sattar Khan and his lieutenant Bakir Khan, the constitutionalists resisted a force sent by the Shah to bring the city to submission. For 11 months, Tabriz was besieged, with food and provisions not allowed to reach its inhabitants, thus leading to famine-like conditions. Several efforts to break the siege were defeated, including one led by Howard Baskerville, a young American teacher at the American Memorial School, which resulted in.
Okay, so I think what's confusing about that part, what was confusing for me is that they talk about the Cossack Brigade, and then they jump forward to Reza Khan, but then they jump backwards, but they don't ground it in like a date. So what they're talking about right now, 11 months here, 5 months there, we have no idea about the dates. And so this could be confusing for people who are not familiar with the history of Iran at that time in the 1910s and 1920s.
His death. Finally, in April 1909, citizens of Tabriz
So now they say 1909, okay.
Found some relief when Britain, Russia and France agreed that a Russian force should be sent to occupy the city. But the heroic resistance of Tabriz inspired others throughout the country to similarly take up arms and oppose the Shah. In Esfahan, the Bakhtiari clan had ousted the Shah's governor and taken control of the city for themselves. Soon they began their march towards Tehran, whilst in the north the forces under Sattar Khan, having been expelled from Tabriz, also marched towards the capital. The royalist position inside Tehran had deteriorated greatly, with the civil war worsening the pre-existing economic crisis. So on July 13, 1909, when constitutionalist forces appeared before the city gates, they were able to assert their dominance over it within 5 days. A makeshift constituent assembly was formed, promptly declaring that Muhammad Ali Shah was to be deposed and replaced with his 12-year-old son, Ahmad. Leading royalists were tried and imprisoned, or as in the case of Sheikh Fazlullah Nouri, executed. The revolution had been rescued. The Majlis resumed its duties with renewed vigor when it reopened in November 1909. It soon negotiated the withdrawal of almost all the Russian troops inside the country's northern provinces, obtained a loan to rebuild the administrative structure, set up a police force known as the Gendarmerie, and recruited an American financial expert by the name of Morgan Schuster to reorganize the tax administration. But as is often the case with Middle Eastern states that initially enter into parliamentary democracy, the Majlis descended into internal conflict. The line separating the moderates and the liberals became more pronounced, as both sides dug their heels in and became less willing to compromise. The issue surrounding religiosity and secularism featured prominently. With the revolution having already turned violent, both sides were now more willing to use violence to advance their cause, turning Tehran into a bloody battleground by the beginning of 1911. Seeing chaos reduce the central government to ineptitude.
I should have fixed my heading up top here, guys, because the way that I read the description about this particular documentary, the way they describe it is that it almost seems as if they start with the Persian Constitutional Revolution and then they end up at the 1979 Islamic Revolution. But this documentary is all about the Persian Constitutional Revolution of 1905 to 1911. So this title up here is a little bit misleading. I apologize, but I did think that this was going to lead up to the 1979 Islamic Revolution. However, I'm actually, for what it is, I'm actually enjoying this quite a bit because so far it's been pretty much factual, except for the part where they talk about Reza Khan. That was just a little bit confusing to just bring him in and then go back, because it almost made it seem as if Reza Khan was responsible for bombing the Majlis when he literally wasn't. He wasn't involved at that time. That is my major criticism of this documentary so far. So we have a few more minutes left, but as of right now, I'm kind of at an 8. I'm at an 8, but let's see how this finishes.
The provinces erupted in tribal warfare as various tribes and ethnicities tried to assert their own authority on their territories. In an attempt to prevent open warfare, the government announced that all private citizens had to hand in their weapons. The heroes of Tabriz, Sattar Khan and Bakir Khan, along with 300 of their men, refused, leading to a short battle in Atabak Park, in which the government prevailed. There were even attempts by the former Shah, Muhammad Ali, to return to power, but these were defeated. From the outside, European powers watched with great alarm, especially the British, whose oil concession had struck gold when oil was discovered in 1908. On the back of their agreement in 1907, the Russians and the British began moving their troops into the main northern and southern cities respectively. In November 1911, the Russians issued an ultimatum to Parliament: dismiss Schuster, never hire foreign advisors without British and Russian consent, and pay an indemnity for the Russian forces in Iranian cities. For the first time in over a year, the moderates and liberals unanimously agreed on something: to reject the conditions. But the Prime Minister Samsam al-Sultaneh and a few other key figures saw this as futile. What resistance could they offer to a well-trained and ferocious force of over 10,000 Russian soldiers? So the Majlis was dissolved. And just like that, the Persian Constitutional Revolution was over, weakened by internal fissures and finished off by external pressures. The revolution might have been over, but for the desire and drive of a more representative and efficient form of governance in Iran, this was only the beginning.
I don't understand what he means by saying that, and with that, the Persian Constitutional Revolution was over. It was over because they achieved what they wanted, which was a constitution, by the way, that constitution existed up until 1979. And in fact, um, many of us argue that the Constitution is still in place. So the Constitution of 1906, according to some Iranian legal scholars, is still in place, and it was never actually overturned by the 1979 Islamic Revolution. Now, there's a lot of debate on that, but regardless, the way that he says that, and with that, the revolution was over. It was over because they were successful, right? There was no majlis prior to 1906, right? There was no Iranian parliament before 1906. And what the Persian Constitutional Revolution did is it established um, an, a parliament in Iran, which is called the Majlis. And that parliament existed, it still exists today, right? So even during the Shah's time, Shahanshah Aryameh, that Majlis was there. So the way that they say like it was just over, it's a little weird. I don't like how they frame it because it doesn't make sense to me. It seems like they have a little bit of an agenda. I don't know if they want to make this more dramatic than it is. And that's the other thing. It's like I find like non-Iranians just like when they talk about the history of Iran, everything is like drama, so dramatic, so mysterious, right? Um, the constitution, the revolution at that time was over because they achieved what they wanted.
Over the course of the 20th century, there would be two more major revolutions that sought to achieve the aims set out by the constitutionalists at the beginning of the century. Both of those future events would trace the genealogy of their movements to the Constitutional Revolution. Thanks for tuning in. As usual, I want to give a big shout out to my
Okay, so this was not about the 1979 Islamic Revolution. I thought it was because that's sort of how they described it in their like the summary. And guys, with all of these, I do like a blind watch. So it's not like I watch these from before and prepare myself. I literally just, watch it with you guys live so you get like my initial reaction. So this was, again, let me pull up the channel which I got this from. I will include the link to this documentary in the video description of this live stream when the live stream is done. So this was a documentary that was recommended by one of our channel members, Scott. Scott, thank you so much for this suggestion. You know what? I actually enjoyed watching this, guys. After like 3 nights of watching utter nonsense and Islamist and jihadi propaganda, this was quite refreshing. This was like a refreshing change, and it also provided insight into um, a part of Iranian history and politics that a lot of people don't know about, right? And so for anyone who actually knows about the fact that there was a Persian Constitutional Revolution in 1905, anyone who knows that automatically understands that the Shah was not a dictator, right? Because we were a constitutional monarchy well before the Pahlavi dynasty came into power. The thing about this documentary is it does not focus enough on the Russian communist influence. But other than that, like it was pretty good. I mean, compared to the three other documentaries that we have seen, this is not bad. This is not bad. Like I don't like at the end how he says that like, this then informed two other revolutions, right? When he says two other revolutions, Obviously, one of them is the 1979 Islamic Revolution, but the other revolution that he's referring to is 1953 with Mossadegh. That was not a revolution, guys. So that is communist propaganda. Um, there was no revolution in 1953. What happened in 1953 is exactly what happened in 1921. In 1921, the communists tried to take over Iran and they were prevented. And then in 1953, the communists once again tried to take over Iran and they were prevented. So it was not a revolution. So I don't like that because that's not the proper way of describing what happened. So I mean, having said that, I don't know, guys. What would you rate this documentary? I mean, I'm thinking a 7 out of 10, a 7 out of 10, because it does provide a lot of good input and insight, and I think um, it's probably like going to be one of the better primers for understanding Iranian political history leading up to the 1979 Islamic Revolution. So, um, 7. Okay, guys, give me so for the Iranians here, just on yet شماره بهم بدین, like out of 10, for the Iranians, I'm thinking a 7. Are we agreeing on a 7? For anyone who says that I'm not Iranian, I mean, نمیدونم به چی بگم. اگه که بتونی فارسی صحبت بکنی، به زبان فارسی تو چت تایپ بکن که من ایرانی نیستم. So 6? I'm seeing a lot of 6s. 7.5. Oh my gosh. Wait. BB gave me another sticker. Thank you, BB. Thank you, BB. By the way, this is not only a pro Pahlavi channel. This is also a pro Israel channel. So we love Israel. I'm Israel Chai, and just want to give a shout out to all of our Jewish followers and members here as well. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of 7s. Okay, I'm seeing like 6, 7, 7.5. Okay, so I think I'm gonna give this a 7. I think that's sort of what we're gonna, agree upon here. And I will also qualify, right? Like I'll explain why it's a 7. But yes, I would definitely recommend this documentary with the qualifiers that I provided. This is one of the better ones. Again, like this is because it's before the events of 1979, and I think it's interesting for a lot of people to see this. So yeah, this is definitely a 7 out of 10, which is a huge jump compared to the other documentaries where we have rated um 3 out of 10, 0 out of 10, and then a thumbs up, middle finger out of 10. So okay, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining. I did have a goal, but unfortunately, we did not reach the goal. But maybe next time I'll stick around and do a little bit of Q&A for everyone. But I will see you all tomorrow at 12 noon for another episode of The Goldie Show, which is my usual daily live stream. So see you all tomorrow at 12 noon. And until then, Payanda Iran. Javid Shah. Fat on fat. You want me to keep going? Okay. I mean, is there something in particular that you would like me to talk about? I mean, I mean, I could probably stick around for another hour. Okay. All right. Okay. Let me see if I can find something else and just play it here. What do you guys want me to Do you guys want me to just play something else, or do you want me to just answer questions? Because I could just maybe like do AMAs. Like if there's any questions you have about Iran or the Shah, like I'm more than happy to do that for um a little bit. Wait, what am I seeing here? Okay. All right. Okay. I could talk about anything. All right. Okay. All right. Fine. Okay. I've never done this before, but okay. I will try to answer your questions in the chat, guys. So, okay. What's my religion? So my religion is private. Um, I'm not Muslim, if that means anything. I mean, ultimately, I don't think religion matters. I think oh my God, Omi, do you want to go through Khomeini's terrible book? I don't know if I'm prepared for that. I need to find a link. Okay. I could find a link and we could go through some of like the terrible things Khomeini says, but I don't know. Oh my gosh, that's like Omi, guys, we have to like how do I put this? We have to ease in the non-Iranians, right? Like we have to ease them into the horrific reality of the Islamic Republic. Like if I was just going to break down all the things that Khomeini says right now, um, like half the people here would just be traumatized for the rest of their life. So we have to ease them into like the disgusting ideology of the Islamic Republic. Um, so yeah, okay. So let me scroll up a little bit because I want to now make sure. Okay, so now I'm going to be like focusing on your comments here. Okay, so just give me a moment. I'm going to try to get through them all. So پاینده ایران جاویدشاه 100%. BTK, thank you for the super sticker. I appreciate that. Was my family Muslim? So, I mean, a significant portion of my family in Iran are still Muslim. And this is what a lot of people don't realize. Like there are many Iranians, and so again, like not my family because I've actually stopped. Like I cut contact with my family in Iran like over 10 years ago. I don't speak with any of them. I don't follow them. They don't follow me. I don't even speak with my grandmother because I'm so outspoken about the Islamic Republic. I don't want to put their lives in danger. So I just cut contact with all of them. But yes, there are a significant portion of my family in Iran are Muslim, and that's one of the things a lot of people they don't get the nuances, right? Like we are speaking about Islamic terrorism. That's different from Muslims. The Islamic Republic murders Iranians regardless of religion. So, but you know, that's why when it comes to but again we Iranians we're very religiously diverse, so we have Muslim Iranians, we have Christian Iranians, we have Jewish Iranians, we have Baha'i Iranians, Zoroastrian Iranians, agnostic, atheist. But one of the things that like it doesn't really like matter to us is like when we meet another Iranian, we never ask like what's your religion because it doesn't matter, right? And that's because freedom of religion has always been here. Let me put up the people. Let me put up your question so you guys know where I am at the chat. Um, so I'm answering Sam right now. Um, so freedom of religion has been an integral part of Iranian culture and history, going back to Cyrus the Great, who's the father of the founder of the Persian Empire. And in fact, yesterday was Cyrus the Great Day, which is a huge, significant event. So, I mean, yeah, half my family is Muslim, but again, like that's irrelevant because our fight is against Islamic extremism. By our, I mean mine. And, I speak out against Islamic extremism like many people do. I personally am not Muslim. I don't believe in that faith. I don't ascribe to the faith. I follow um, something else. I'm learning about something else, but ultimately, I think religion should be something private. And I believe that religion should never have an impact on government or society. So there we go. Okay, so unusual AI super chat count is only blue on green. Oh, thank you. Um, okay, I'm scrolling down. Break down what is going on today. So today I actually had a live stream earlier. If you guys haven't watched it, I suggest you go and take a look. So let me just pull it up here. Give me one moment, guys. I'm so sorry. So I actually had a live stream about the Nigerian genocide. Okay, so here we go. So it was earlier today, and here you go, Nigerian genocide. And I brought on someone named Zari Yusuf. And Zari, he's a Nigerian Christian. He's been trying to raise awareness about what's going on in Nigeria for a very long time. So I spoke about that. I spoke a little bit about Sudan as well, guys. Some of you are asking me um, about Sudan, and it's very complicated. Like I'm still looking into it, and I don't like to talk about topics when I'm not 100% familiar or comfortable with them because I want to make sure that I'm giving proper information. So, what's happening in Sudan is horrible. Um, I've been doing research on it, and I do have my regular daily live stream tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern. I haven't set a topic yet. Um, if I'm able to brush up enough on Sudan, I'll talk about it. If not, then I will leave Sudan for next week because I want to make sure I'm getting it right. But regardless of what's going on, like I've been trying to raise awareness, and what's really frustrating is that all the videos that been putting out on Sudan on like my TikTok, and like my TikTok guys, I have like over 300. I have over 300,000 followers on TikTok, guys. But videos I put out on Sudan on TikTok, Instagram, even Twitter or X as it's called, um, not getting a lot of traction. It almost seems like they're trying to downplay what's going on. But I mean, ultimately, like innocent people are being massacred, and the videos coming out are absolutely horrific there. So, yeah, so John mentioned Sudan. I'm 100% aware of it. Chris, what's my religion? Again, like, I don't know why people keep on asking me about my religion. Like it's the weirdest thing. And, it's also interesting because I was a politician for 7 years. Like I was in politics for 10 years. I was a politician, elected official for 7 years, and like people always ask the most personal questions, right? And it's always like, "What's your religion?" So I mean, guys, if you want to know, sure. Like I am I I'm learning about Zoroastrianism. I identify as a Zoroastrian, right? So the core principles of Zoroastrianism are good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. And Zoroastrianism is basically the religion of the Persian Empire, right? So everything good that came out of the Persian Empire is because of Zoroastrianism and those principles. And in fact, it was under the Zoroastrian ruled Persian Empire that people had freedom of religion. So, I mean, I'm not like a fully like 100% observant Zoroastrian, but if I had to identify with a religion, 100% I would say Zoroastrianism, right? And I try to follow the key pillars. So I hope that answers your questions about, what religion I am. So, okay. So let's see here. Major, talk briefly about what, wait, oh my gosh, what's going, is Mozambique also dealing with like Islamic terrorism? Um, let's see here. Oh my gosh. Okay, yeah, so ISIS in Mozambique is also causing issues there. I mean, again, like this is the challenge with well, not challenge, this is the problem with Islamic terrorism. They're in a lot of places, and right now, it seems like Africa is the new frontier. So let me make a note of that, Major. Um, I'll add Mozambique as well, and maybe I'll do it at the same time that I speak about Sudan. Mozambique, Sudan. Okay, so there we go. Um, what happened to the Shah and his family? So the late Shah of Iran, Shah Aryamer, who we love, um, he passed away from leukemia in 1980, and then his son, the crown prince at the time, swore he swore the succession oath, right? That's what a lot of people don't know. So let me just pull this up for you so you guys can see. So after the Shahanshah Aryamer passed away in 1980, Ruhi Shah, his son, who's the current Shah in exile, he swore the constitutional oath in Cairo in 1980, and ever since then, he has been fighting to free Iran and bring about a secular form of democracy in Iran. And in fact, on my in like my main show, like my main daily show, and I'm still coming up for a name for it. I just call it the Goldie Show right now because I don't know what else to really call it. But on my main daily live stream, I talk about it quite a bit. So if you see here, like yesterday, I actually had part two of an interview that he had with PragerU about regime change in Iran. And actually, so one thing I'm doing is the reason I did this, so this was an interview from last year. And next week, I'm actually going to be doing an update on what's currently happening with respect to the Iranian Revolution, because we have a number of updates. There's actually a huge announcement he just made a few days ago. So I'm going to be talking about that next week. So yeah, you definitely want to make sure to watch this. This is part two. There's also part one in the same playlist. And then that way, when I talk about these things um, in my upcoming live stream next week, you'll be able to kind of know what's going on, because I'm basically laying the foundation right now for updates about the Iranian Revolution. Yeah, Gandalf, you're right. BTK, do I prefer to be called Goldie? Honestly, like so my name is Golsa, which people who read Farsi, like they can see it in my name title. But like I have no preference. So like people started calling me Goldie as a nickname when I was 13. Some people feel more comfortable calling me Goldie. Some people call me Gorsta. No preference, whichever one is easier for you guys. Like they're both my names, right? A lot of people have like an Iranian name and an English name. So yeah, I mean no preference. Whatever's more comfortable for you, Gorsta or Goldie. Um, okay. Robert, I've heard that there have been a record number of, sorry, like, okay, so this comment's from 9:30, we're at 9:42. So guys, I'm getting through your comments, I promise. So Robert, record number of Christian conversions in Iran, 100%, that is correct. Unfortunately, we don't have the full numbers because the crime, the punishment for apostasy, which is leaving Islam, in the Islamic Republic is death, right? So anyone who converts cannot publicly say that they've converted. In fact, I believe it was last week that 5 Christians were hanged for converting from Islam to Christianity in occupied Iran. So, yeah, the regime does not like this. They crack down and they murder apostates by public hangings. It is horrific. It is very, very horrific. But Christianity is one of the fastest growing religions in occupied Iran. Zoroastrianism is the second fastest growing religion in occupied Iran. Um, Yep, Khomeini is 100% terrible. Wait. Why would I get banned? What? I might get banned for what? I totally missed this. Okay. Oh, about showing the home. Okay, right. Okay, yeah. You know what you're asking? If I was going to like talk about what the founder of the Islamic Republic wrote in his book, I probably would get banned because it is demonic and it is horrific. So there we go. John, you want me to do Sudan? Okay, so I don't do like the political stuff in the evenings. I do it during my daily live stream, which happens at 12 noon Eastern. I will try to do Sudan tomorrow. Um, I just want to make sure that I have the proper information because there's a lot of disinformation out there right now, and you have like Qatar who's saying that this was done by the UAE, but then you have others who are saying this is actually funded by Russia. And whenever Qatar comes and blames another country, that sets off alarm bells for me because Qatar is like a terrorist state, and Qatar is trying to destabilize the world. So that's why I'm like, okay, if Qatar and the people who support Qatar are blaming the UAE, and they're also blaming Israel, by the way. This is a really weird thing. So Qatar and Al Jazeera is blaming the United Arab Emirates and Israel for what's happening in Sudan. Meanwhile, it seems like it's more the Islamists. And then you also have a number of influential UAE um, Arab Muslims who are blaming what's happening on Qatar. So it's it's a big political mess. Um, Ultimately, at the end of the day, my concern is about the innocent people in Sudan who are being murdered by Islamists, right? They're being murdered for the cause of like jihad or Allah. And I just want to raise awareness about that because people need to know what's happening, regardless of who's behind it. Give me a moment, sorry. So maybe I will talk about Sudan tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern, but we'll have to see. So this is one of those questions that like only two types of people ask this sort of question. So this person is either just genuinely ignorant and does not understand the difference between Iranians versus the Islamic Republic that's occupying Iranians, or this person supports the Islamic Republic, right? So this person could very well be a terrorist supporter. I don't know. So the reason that Iranians support Israel is because Israel attacked the Islamic Republic. The Islamic Republic has been murdering us Iranians for 47 years. So, of course, when Israel attacks and murders the people who murder us, we see that as help. We see that as a good thing, right? Because Israel did not murder our compatriots. Israel murdered our oppressors, right? Israel murdered the people who murder Iranians in the name of Allah and Islam. So God bless Israel. Thank you, Israel. Israel did an amazing thing, and I love Israel for the fact that they exterminated all of those Islamic jihadi terrorists, like the cockroaches that they are. And you are clearly not Iranian because you do not understand the difference between the Islamic Republic, which is occupying my country, versus us Iranians who are occupied by the Islamic Republic. This is a pro-Israel channel, pro-Zionist. We love Israel. I'm Israel Chai. Okay. So let's see. Yeah, you're right. They can't bear the Khomeini books. We have to like ease them in slowly. Yeah, yeah, Azizam. Khomeini's book is so bad if he was in Canada. You know what? If he was in Canada like maybe 15, 20 years ago, the RCMP would arrest him and put him away for life. But given the fact that these days, Mark Carney, the Prime Minister of Canada, said that Muslim values are Canadian values, pretty sure if like Khomeini was alive and came to Canada today, like Mark Carney would like give him the Order of Canada because, Muslim values are Canadian values. So, yeah, I mean, with the way Canada's going right now, I wouldn't be surprised. Jane, thank you. Thank you for the super sticker. I appreciate that. Thank you for the support. Okay. Let's see here. What other comments do I have? Someone mentioned that they remember a lot of Iranians left their homeland to live in America after what happened. what happened. So what happened was the 1979 Islamic Revolution, right? So 1979, um, the Islamists came and turned Iran into a 7th century Islamic hellhole. So, guys, if you want to learn more about that, you want to go here. Okay, so see this playlist here. So this is my main page. You guys are here anyway. So make sure you subscribe. So you want to go to this playlist here where I talk about like Iranians rate documentaries about Iran, right? And the one you want to check out is this one here from Monday night, right? So it's 1979 Islamic Revolution explained, and I gave it a score of 3 out of 10. Do you see that? So this is a 4-hour live stream that I did on Monday night, and that will give you an in-depth input and insight into the 1979 Islamic Revolution, what led up to it, what happened. Okay, so like if you guys have questions, go and watch that. Go and watch that. Take your time with it. But the documentary itself for that one is about 55 minutes long. But get this. So the documentary is 55 minutes long. This live stream is 4 hours. That's because I'm giving you guys about 3 hours worth of critique, commentary, and feedback. So go and watch that. Go and watch that because that will basically be a very good primer. And then after that, if you're still interested, then watch the other two as well. But I mean, just if you have any questions about the 1979 Islamic Revolution, just watch this. I'm literally going through it, right? And you can see me like showing a whole bunch of stuff. Um, so there you go. Have I been interviewed by Patrick Bet David yet? No, but I'm in talks with his people. Apparently, Patrick Bet David wants me to go on his podcast. I'm thinking about it. I haven't decided yet, but we'll see. We're in talks right now. We're in talks right now on that. So Gandalf, you guys don't know how terrible it is for us inside and outside. You're 100%. You're 100% right. Okay. Guys, oh my gosh, I'm at the 932 comments and it's 9:52, but I will get through these. So John, that's sad, Goldie, but I'm glad you were doing what you're doing. Thank you. I appreciate that. Isun, 100% right. Guys, the vast majority of Iranians are not Muslim. That's one thing that people don't seem to understand. And like this is like this is one of the funniest news stories ever. And this was actually this is a news story from an Islamic where was it? It's 50,000 mosques, right? Where is that? Okay, here we go. So, guys, whenever someone tells you that Iran is a Muslim country, they have no idea what they're talking. So either they have no idea what they're talking about or they're lying. And I'll explain to you guys why. So this is an article from 2023, okay? So you see the date here, 2023. Senior cleric claims religion in Iran weak, 50,000 mosques closed. Okay, keep that in mind. So this isn't coming from me. This isn't coming from Iranians. This is coming from the Islamic Republic. This is coming from one of their own like jihadi Islamic clerics, right? So he says, Muhammad Abul Qasim Dulabi. Oh my gosh, why do these like چرا این آخوندها همه اسمای like عجق وجقی دارن مثلا محمد ابوالقاسم like what the hell are these people anyways all right so Muhammad Abul Qasim Dulabi, Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi's special representative in cleric affairs. Okay, so it's like this imam here. A senior Iranian cleric says that 50,000 of Iran's 75,000 mosques are closed, showing the declining numbers of Iranians attending. Okay, so guys, when we say that Iran is not a Muslim country, we're not exaggerating. Like 67% of Iran's mosques closed down 2 years ago because of non-attendance, right? Guys, take this as a warning, especially in all these Western countries where like they're like mosques are popping up like weeds because all of these like jihadis are coming to your country and taking over. 50,000 mosques in Iran shut down because we're not Muslim. We're not. Um, and so this right here, this is literally proof, okay? This is proof that Iran is not a Muslim country. Iran is occupied by an Islamic dictatorship, but we're not Muslim, and we don't want to be Muslim, and we don't want anything to do with Islam. And listen, this isn't a criticism of anyone who's Muslim, like you to practice your life, whatever you want to do, right? But the reason I'm showing this is because anyone who says Iran is a Muslim country and Muslim whatever have no idea what they're talking about, because the Islamic Republic themselves have admitted that 67% of mosques in Iran have been shut down because people are not attending, right? This is the kind of information you don't get in mainstream media because they don't want you to know the truth. They don't want you guys to know that Iran is occupied by an Islamic dictatorship. But yeah, there you go. So, Isun, thank you for that. Like, yeah, I would say like if I was going to put a percentage on the number of people in Iran who are practicing Muslims right now, based on like polls and statistics, it's probably somewhere between 20 to 25%. So 20 to 25% of Iranians are probably practicing Muslims. The vast majority of Iranians are actually agnostic or atheist, right? And part of that is because of the Islamic Republic. So prior to 1979, it's true, the vast majority of Iranians were Muslim, but they were like normal Muslims, right? Like Iran was a secular country, and Iranian Muslims just lived like any other country in the West, right? It was only when the Islamic Republic came and brought Sharia law and imposed that like 7th century jihadi ideology on Iranians that Iranians were like, ooh, like we don't want this. And the Islamic Republic pushed it so much that it actually made Iranians hate Islam. That's why the vast majority are now agnostic, and that's why 50,000 of Iran's 75,000 mosques are closed, right? Again, this isn't coming from me. This is the fact. This is the truth. This is the stuff you don't see in the media. So this is why like anyone who says that Iran is like a Muslim country, and you know what? The people who usually get like very butthurt or like frustrated by these sorts of facts, like they're not even Iranian anyway. They're usually like those like weird jihadi Pakistanis or Bangladeshis or like, the Palestinians or whatever, right? It's like the Islamists get upset, right? And they usually have names like, I don't know, they have like Arab names or Pakistani names, like, I don't know, Habib or whatever, right? So we can always tell like they're not Iranian, but that they defend the Islamic Republic more than Iranians, which is very bizarre, right? But yeah, there you go. So Aisun, that's a very good comment. Very good point. Like the vast majority of us are not Muslim. Okay. All right. So, oh, thank you for your voice. Oh, you're very welcome. Appreciate that. Okay. Yeah, most Iranians are atheist or agnostic, especially youth. 100%, 100%. That's definitely true. Omid, you make a very good point. You can worship a cat. We do not care. As long as you respect our rights, we will respect you. John, Iran is a great country. Don't look at the nowadays of Iran. Persia was great. 100%. Okay. Okay. So let me scroll down here again. Okay. So I'm just trying to get through your comments to the questions. Okay. So, okay. Fair warning for non-Iranians, do not visit Iran. Like, do not visit Iran. It is incredibly dangerous right now. One of the things that the Islamic Republic does, so okay, So Iranians are very nice to travelers, 100% that's true. So we Iranians, we're very, very hospitable. Um, we love foreigners. We love inviting them into our country. We love hosting them. However, the Islamic Republic is a very dangerous entity. And one of the things that the Islamic Republic does is they will constantly and on a very regular basis take travelers and tourists hostage, accuse them of being spies, and then hold them hostage for ransom for millions of dollars from foreign governments. That's one of the ways that they get around the sanctions, right? This is one of the ways they get money is through hostage taking. So I do not advise or recommend anyone to go to Iran right now. And any sort of travel influencer, because there are unfortunately a few, like what the Islamic Republic does is they will pay like travel influencers to go to Iran and make like a vlog or whatever. And then they go and then they make it seem like everything is perfect and beautiful and fine, right? Um, and they do that because they want to encourage other people to go so that the Islamic Republic can take those people hostage. So um, think of like North Korea, right? Think of like the movie The Interview, where like Seth Rogen and the other guy go to like North Korea, and the North Koreans make it seem as if everything is perfect, but then they find out that it's all a lie. That's pretty much Iran. So any travel vloggers who go that are paid by the Islamic regime to go there, um, like they don't have the freedom to go wherever they want to go and film whatever they want to film. They only go to certain places that are like very rich, very luxurious. They don't have the freedom, like they can't talk with regular normal people on the street either. So do not be fooled by that. Um, do not visit Iran right now. Once Iran is free, like once we've overthrown the Islamic dictatorship and reclaimed our country, 100% like Iran will be open again to the world. But right now, I highly like discourage it. Do not go. It is dangerous. You could be taken as a hostage because the threat is not the Iranian people. The Iranian people are great. Again, very hospitable. We love foreigners. The threat is the Islamic dictatorship that is holding us hostage. That's who you have to be worried about. Um, okay. Okay, let's see. Um, so next we have, okay. What time zone am I in? So my time zone is Eastern. That's why, like, if you look at my YouTube channel, where I talk about, where is it? When I talk about like in my when I talk about like going live, so I go live weekdays at 12 noon Eastern. So yeah, my time zone is Eastern. Um, 100%. So the hijab laws in Iran, um, every single woman in Iran has to cover her hair regardless of her religion. So yeah, 100% there's a crackdown on any woman who doesn't wear the hijab, regardless of whether or not she's Muslim. 100% Liam. Okay. Um, okay. I have to scroll through your comments a little bit faster, guys. I apologize. Um, I'll get through them. Okay. Where's the next questions? Oh, Fat on Fire, big thanks to the admins for all your hard work support. Really appreciate it. You know what? 100%. The Fat on Fire, the admins are amazing, and the mods are amazing. And thank you for a reminder, Fat on Fat. I just made you a mod as well, so there you go. Join. Welcome to the mod club. And I always say the mods. I trust you guys. You guys are what make the live stream so much more enjoyable and informative for people who are watching and commenting, because I obviously cannot comment, respond to every single person. And there is a lot of interest about Iran, about Iranian history, Iranian politics. So I really do appreciate all of you guys here. And thank you for the support. And I hope you guys are enjoying this. So, okay, let's see what we got here. What's next? Who's embedded in Africa? Yeah, 100%. I don't know what this is a response to, but that's so true. Like Russia and China, 100% are embedded in Africa. In fact, Russia and China are also embedded in occupied Iran, right? Like the Islamists in 1979, they were actually funded and trained by KGB. And during the 1979 Islamic coup d'etat, 40,000 KGB agents actually came to Iran and, you know, joined the people on the streets, right? So 1979 was based off of fake news, and it was orchestrated by the Soviets. And that's why after the Islamic Revolution happened, um, you know, the Islamic Republic became an ally of Russia and China, right? Like it's all connected, and now Russia and China are definitely trying to do the same thing in Africa right now. And you know, a lot of people don't realize, but a lot of Iran's economy is controlled by China because China has come in and bought out so much. So China has a vested interest in keeping the Islamic Republic in power as well, unfortunately. So, have I seen the ancient vertical windmills in Iran? I think so. Yeah. Let me see. I may have. Wait, which city is this in? No, I don't know. I don't think I've seen this one. No. So I I haven't seen the windmills. Wait, where am I at here? I haven't seen the windmills. What I've seen instead is the ancient like irrigation system of the city of Shush, right? So I'm from Ahvaz. I'm like a Lord Bakhtiari, so um my family like lineage traces like thousands of years back there. Like the city that I was born in, Ahvaz in Iran, existed like 600 years before Islam was invented, right? Um, so that's where I'm from, and there's a city close to me called Shushtar. I think in English it's called Susa. Um, and that was one of the former sort of like capitals or main cities of the Persian Empire. And there's a whole like irrigation system there that was built like 2,000 years ago. And I definitely saw that. And that's also another World UNESCO Heritage Center, which is fantastic. Um, okay, so you sent me a link. Okay, so I will check the membership page, Fat on Fat, after, um, and see what it is that you want to talk about 100%. So we will do that for sure. Okay. Someone says free Palestine. I mean, sure, free Narnia. Like, guys, we never talk about Narnia, right? Like people come here and they're like free Palestine. I don't know what Palestine is. But can we talk about freeing Narnia as well from like the White Witch? I would appreciate that. Um, okay. You want me to do a 2C TV collaboration? You know what? I really like 2C, but he's like sometimes he's a shit disturber. I actually met him. I met him when I went to Munich this past summer, and I met him there. Fantastic guy, by the way. I really like him a lot. And I also know Gorbani Nayak, and I think like Gorbani Nayak works for 2C TV now. So I mean, if you want me to do like a 2C TV collab, I mean, I'll look into. I don't know, like do you want me to do like what like, do you want me to do like an interview collab or something? Like, I don't know, but let me know. Um, yeah, okay. So, yes, I 100% do. I 100% celebrate the Persian New Year with the Hafsin Sofre. Yeah, I think like all Iranians do. Like that's Nowruz is like a celebration that's like thousands of years old, right? Like it goes back 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 years. It's basically the spring equinox. 100% I celebrate that. It's a great celebration. Okay, I'm trying to go through your comments. So, free Palestine, free Narnia, free Narnia. Guys, I don't understand why people come here and say free Palestine. Like, this is 100% pro-Zionist Israel channel. Like, I love Israel. Um, actually, guys, so fun fact, I'm actually planning um, another trip to Israel. Yay! So it's gonna be my second one. I'm very excited. And so stay posted. This is like super, super, super early news. There's, still working out all the details, but I'm definitely going to be going back to Israel. And yeah, 100% pro-Zionist, pro-Zionist. I actually think that the two-state solution was Israel and Jordan. So, Jordan is Arab Palestine and Israel is Jewish Palestine. So I don't even understand why there's anything called the West Bank or Gaza. Like it to me, it's just all Israel. It always has been. Like Jordan was literally created for the Arab Palestinians, right? But no one ever talks about that. So yeah, like 100% pro Israel channel here. Yeah, okay. Let's see what was next. Okay, this is funny. My English name is Ahmadabad and my Iranian name is McElroy. Okay, I know a lot of McElroys in Iran, so that is definitely a very, very common Iranian name. So yeah, that was funny. Okay. What's next here? The Khomeini book. Yes, we're still okay. That was like 20 minutes ago. Do I live in Iran? No, I do not. Guys, I don't live in Iran. The reason that I'm able to speak freely is because I'm actually outside of occupied Iran. Um, Unfortunately, the reality is that if you are inside of Iran, you cannot speak freely. Um, no one inside of occupied Iran uses their real name or their real image on social media because speaking out against the Islamic Republic is a crime punishable by death. So the vast majority of Iranians do not speak out. But one of the reasons that many of them support me is because um, I speak on their behalf, especially in English. And there's actually not that many well-spoken Iranians who are able to bridge that gap and close that narrative between what happens in Farsi discourse versus the information people get in English. And so I think one of the reasons that I'm honored to have the support of a lot of Iranians is because I'm able to accurately convey what many Iranians think. Um, and I'm in constant communications with a lot of people in Farsi. I get messages from Iranians all the time in Farsi and English, and I like to keep an eye on Iranian politics and of course explain that in English because um, you know there's already a lot of influencers who speak in Persian and their audience is Persian based. My audience is more um, non-Iranian based. Like my audience is I'm more geared towards English speakers who are interested in learning about Iran because the whole goal for me is to sort of bridge the gap, right? Like my goal here is to be that link between Iranians and occupied Iran and the outside world so that people can understand what's actually happening in Iran and understand that we Iranians, we're not your enemies. We're being held hostage by the Islamic dictatorship, and the real enemy of the Iranian people is also the real enemy of non-Iranian people, right? Like we're both fighting that same enemy, which is the Islamic Republic. So that's why I'm here. But no, I don't live in Iran. Um, if I did, I would not have the freedom to speak out like this. There have been numerous Iranians who have spoken out um, and they have been executed just for the crime of speaking out. Um, yeah, but thank you for that. I appreciate that. Okay. Um, am I Jewish? No, I'm not Jewish. Why does everyone think I'm Jewish? Guys, just because I support Israel doesn't mean I'm Jewish. Like, anyone who looks at the history of Iranians can understand why we support Israel. The shared history of Iranians and Jews goes back 3,000 years to this time of Cyrus the Great. Just look it up. Look it up. I mean, it's it's a very sort of like primitive thinking to just assume that only Jewish people support Israel. No, there are many people who support the right of Israel to exist because Israel has existed for far longer, like thousands of years before Islam was invented, Israel existed. So anyone who, knows history and fact knows that. In fact, um, what's interesting is that those people who have origins in ancient civilizations all recognize the right of Israel to exist, right? Like Iranians, Greeks, Romans, Indians, right? Various other ancient civilizations, all of the civilizations that basically predated Islam, they all recognize the right of Israel to exist because in our ancient history, Israel existed. It was only when Islam was invented that they started this narrative of like they own Palestine or whatever, right? But like none of that existed prior to Islam being invented. So in all of our collective ancient histories, right? There's always a mention of Israel, but there's never a mention of Palestine, right? Because Palestine is fake. Palestine is not a real thing. Palestine is a Roman word, right? Like it goes back to the Philistines. So there's nothing real or authentic about Palestine. Like even their flag, the flag that they use today, was invented by a British guy. So yeah, of course I, believe in the right of Israel to exist because it's literally part of my history as an Iranian. And Greeks would say Greeks would say the same thing. Hindus would say the same thing. Many others would say the same thing, right? Like all those ancient civilizations. So yeah. Okay. Um, I'm an Islamophobe. That word doesn't make any sense. Like that word is a fake word. But okay, Umair, you sound like you're from, I don't know where you're from. I don't even know like what country like Umair is from, but sure, whatever. But like again, this is the thing. Like these are the low IQ savages, right? Like Umair is probably the kind of person who's cheering on the savages in Sudan who are murdering infidels and yelling Allahu Akbar, right? So, this is the problem with social media sometimes is that people like Umair are able to come online and then put up like low IQ comments like that. Anyways, thank you for your contribution, Umair. So I'm not pronouncing Qatar correctly. How do you pronounce Qatar? It's literally pronounced Qatar. Oh my gosh, if you think it's pronounced Qatar, then like, oh, that's awkward. Anyone who pronounces Qatar is just doesn't know anything about the Middle East. Like at least say Qatar, but the proper pronunciation is Qatar. Um, yeah, Sudan situation is terrible. Guys, I have like so many comments I have to go through. Do I have Insta? Yeah, I do have an Insta, guys. It's just Gigamari. So, here, let me pull up my Instagram account. Um, my Instagram account, I post a lot of like short form content. So here you go. So you just go, it's just, Gigamari, and you'll find my Insta there. I also have TikTok and I also have X, and it's the same handle. So you just search for Gigamari, which is basically the first letter of my first name and then my entire last name. You just search for that and you'll find me on Insta, on TikTok, and on X. So there you go. Okay. Okay. Just trying to go through here. $7,000. You're just jealous. It's always like it's always the Mohammeds who like do this, right? Always the Mohammeds. So weird. All right. God free Iran from the Islamic Republic. Thank you. Yes, that's what we're working towards. And yeah, there you go. Fat on Fire also agrees with me that we support Israel. So does Amir, Javid Shah, Am Yisrael Chai, 100%. Javid Shah, Am Yisrael Chai, 100%. You want me to talk about Ahvaz? Guy, I was born in Ahvaz. What do you want me to say about Ahvaz? Ahvaz is my birth city. I don't know what you want me to say about it. Like I'm Ahvazi. I'm Ahwazi. Let me know what you want me to say about Ahvaz. I mean, I'll say it, but um, Ahvaz is another city in Iran. Ahvaz is a very old city. It was built like 2000 years ago. Um, it was built, during the Persian Empire. And yeah, like the city, guys, the city that I was born in existed like 600 years before Islam was invented, right? Like Ahvaz existed 600 years before Islam was invented. So there you go. Like that's just you get a sense. Like everything about Iran and Iranian history is like thousands of years older than Islam. Anyway. Um Okay, so Iran is less than 30%, not 99%, 100%. So guys, like the Islamic Republic lies, right? They lie about everything. The reason that they claim it's 99% is basically just to they want the world to think that Iran is like a Muslim country, right? But again, remember this article, right? Like this is how Taqiyya works. This is how the Islamists lie. So they will claim Iran is a 99% Muslim country, and yet, their own clerics are admitting that 67% of mosques in Iran were shut down due to the declining numbers of Iranians attending, right? So if Iran was 99% Muslim, they would literally need all of these mosques for people to go and pray, right? But almost 70% of mosques in Iran have been shut down by their own numbers. Guys, I guarantee you the number is probably higher because the Islamic Republic always tries to downplay this. So if they're claiming that 50,000 mosques were shut down, it's probably closer to like 60 or maybe even 70,000, right? Like I'm telling you guys, Iran is not a Muslim country. Less than 30%. I would probably say less than 25% of Iranians are Muslim, but I mean, this is their own narrative, not mine. Like this is what the Islamic Republic itself is saying, but you never see this in the mainstream media. You never see um, these sorts of stories. Okay. Uh, is it possible that we will one day see Iran as a friend of 100%? So prior to 1979, Iran was actually a huge ally of the West. Okay, so Iran was a big ally of the United States, Canada, Israel, all these countries. It was only when the Islamic Republic took over in 1979 and they brought their Islamic values with them and then, their Sharia law, that's when they started chanting death to America and death to Israel, right? So um, this animosity began when the Islamists took control. And what's really terrifying about what's happening in Canada right now is that like Mark Carney literally said a few months ago that Muslim values are Canadian values. And to me, that was horrifying. Like for me, as someone who escaped a brutal Islamic dictatorship because I wanted to get away from Sharia law and those sorts of values, come to Canada, which is a Judeo-Christian country. Um, you know, to hear that like 35 years later is absolutely horrifying. So Canada has a big problem with, unfortunately, accepting jihadi propaganda and narratives. Um, so I think before Canada is able to become a friend of, Iran or whatever, we need to clean house in our own country, guys, because we have a lot of like Islamists and jihadis here, and I personally think it's horrifying that Mark Carney said Muslim values are Canadian values. Like, I'm sorry. I don't think it's appropriate for a woman to be stoned to death for adultery. I don't even think adultery should be a crime. I don't think it's appropriate for a 9-year-old girl to get married. Is it wrong for me to say that? Right? So, yeah, again, the problem is not Iran. I'm Iranian. That's the flag of Iran behind me. That's the flag of pre-Islamic Iran. Iran only became an enemy of the West when the Islamic Republic occupied our country, and then they started chanting death to America. So, yeah, a lot of people think that Iranians are your enemies. No. Um, we love the West. We've always loved the West. Um, it's the Islamic Republic that's your enemy. It's that Islamic jihadi ideology. Unfortunately, for some reason, Mark Carney is deciding to appease the Islamists, and he's going around saying Muslim values are Canadian values. And if we call it out, especially those of us who have escaped Islamic terrorism, if we call it out, we're accused of Islamophobia, which is complete and utter nonsense, right? Um, but I can tell you, Jay, that as soon as the Islamic Republic is overthrown in Iran and Iran becomes, a free, secular, normal country again, 100%, Iran will go back to being a friend of the West. And in fact, Iranians in Iran are waiting for that. And one thing I would recommend you to watch, Jay, I did a live stream on this. So see here, I have this live stream on my channel called USA versus Iran. So I did that live stream 2 days ago because like my usual regular podcast I do at 12 noon Eastern. Um, so make sure you go and watch that because that will give you a very good um, understanding of what Iranians actually think about the West and what the Islamic Republic thinks about the West. And there's a difference there. And in that live stream, it's 2 hours long. I provide videos, I provide context, I provide various I share images and videos and all of that. So make sure that you watch that at some point because that will like this live stream here will definitely answer your question about whether or not Iran will be a friend of the West when the Islamic Republic is overthrown. But that is an excellent question, Jay. Okay. Yeah, that is true. Patrick has talked about that, Scott, 100%. Um, I think he was 8 years old when he left Iran, and if I'm not mistaken, I think he's Assyrian Christian, right? Like, so he's an Assyrian Christian Iranian. I think he lived in Iran until he was 8 years old. Yeah. So we love King Cyrus. Yesterday was actually Cyrus the Great Day, and many of us were celebrating. In fact, Iranians in occupied Iran tried to go visit the tomb of Cyrus the Great, um, and the Islamic regime prevented Iranians from going to the tomb of Cyrus the Great. I do talk about Cyrus the Great in this episode here. So uh, at the beginning of this episode, Pahlavi, Iran is ready for regime change. I actually show the video of Iranians who are trying to go to the tomb of Cyrus the Great to celebrate his birthday, and the Islamic Republic stops them. So if you want to learn more about Cyrus the Great, you definitely want to check out this live stream there. Okay. Oh, this is a good one. جانم فدای شاهزاده رضا پهلوی و عمو نتانیاهو. Yeah, of course. جاوید شاه پاینده ایران. Um, I always like to give a shout out to all the Iranians who are in the live stream as well. You guys are fantastic, and I love seeing your comments as well. So, I mean, Argo's okay. Um, Argo definitely provides good context. My only criticism of Argo is that it downplays the role of the Canadians, again, as a Canadian, proud Canadian as well. Like, I'm proud Iranian, proud Canadian. I can be both. I don't like the fact that in the movie Argo they downplay the importance of the Canadians. But other than that, it definitely is a good movie. I would definitely recommend people watching Argo if they want to learn more about uh, the Islamic Republic and how much they hate Americans. Because you also have to ask yourselves, how come there were so many Americans in Iran for the Islamic Republic to take hostage, right? The only reason they were able to take so many Americans hostage is because prior to the Islamic Republic taking over the country, Iran was a close ally of America, and so there were a lot of Americans there because of that friendship that we had. And it was only when the Islamic Republic came and they brought their anti-American ideology with them that they turned Iran, into an enemy of the West, even though we've never been an enemy of the West. So, do I ever watch Shaws of Sunset? You know what? I watched a few episodes of it, Rod, but I never really got into it. I don't know. Like, should I go back and watch Shaws of Sunset? It's not really my thing. Like, are they like real estate people or something? Like, I think they said like they're like a bunch of rich Iranians in Beverly Hills that sell real estate. Is that what it is? Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. This is an important comment. So Iranians are hopeful and united, standing together in the streets to fight for their rights and achieve success. 100%. 100%. Major. Like and subscribe costs you nothing. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you for the support. Um, yeah, there we go. Okay. So I'm just gonna go through these and I'm gonna end this documentary soon. So okay, someone is using like terrible language. So someone is saying speak Farsi and then they call me a Zayo. They don't even have like a Farsi. They don't, first of all, they don't even have a Persian name. And if this person was Iranian, they would know that it's actually called Persian. And then in Farsi, we say Farsi. So um, you don't deserve for me to speak Farsi while you're still in the chat. So I'm just gonna ban you because I don't tolerate rude comments. Cyrus Accords 100%, 100%. Okay. Oh, Bibi Netanyahu. Oh, okay. Wow. Okay. So Bibi Netanyahu also speaks Farsi and he's putting the separatists in their place. So there you go. Afarin durud be shoma. Like, I'm not going to say something, but you guys go ahead and say whatever you want to the Tajziyat Halab. I support you guys. This is an anti-Tajziyat Halab space. So Tajziyat Halab میخواد یه چیزی بگه جوابشون رو بدین لطفاً. سپاسگزار. Okay. All right. Love Israel. Yes, Iranians, we love Israel. Okay, so okay. This is the thing. Okay, so North is saying, according to official sources, Iran is a 99% Muslim country. Guys, you have to remember this. Iran is occupied by an Islamic dictatorship. Okay? Everything they say is a lie. You cannot rely on anything they say or do. Okay, so again, if Iran was a 99% Muslim country, why the hell would 50,000 of Iran's 75,000 mosques be shut down due to inattendance? Guys, like, you have to use critical thinking skills. There are no official sources, right? Official, reliable sources in occupied Iran. Iran is occupied by an Islamic dictatorship that will lie, cheat, steal, and deceive, right? Guys, takia, right? You know what takia is, right? So they will claim, right? They will claim, like, they will force their media, state broadcasters, whatever, to claim that Iran is a 99% Muslim country, to fool the West into thinking that Iran is a Muslim country and that the Islamic Republic is there because people want them. Meanwhile, at the same time, they're literally admitting that 70% of their mosques have shut down. So you have to use critical thinking skills. You cannot you cannot rely on the Islamic Republic as an official news source. Okay? That's like relying on Hamas, right? Like they lie. So who are you going to believe? Right? Like, are you going to believe North Korea when they say something? No, because North Korea is a dictatorship. Guys, come on. You have to use your thinking skills. Or you use your brains a little bit. Because even the Islamic Republic itself is contradicting their own official sources that Iran is 99% Muslim. Because again, if Iran was 99% Muslim, why the hell are 75% of their 70% of their mosques shutting down? Like, use your brains, please. Just use your brains. Think a little bit. I'm literally giving you the proof right here that Iran is not a Muslim country. I don't know what minority, like, what's a minority Muslim country mean? If you want to use that logic, then every country could technically be a minority Muslim country. Um, that doesn't make any sense. Okay. Yeah, I mean, even the mullahs admit that Iran is not a Muslim country. Okay. Okay. I'm just gonna scroll through here because I want to shut down the live stream soon. Getting a little tired and it is getting late. Yeah, that's true. That's definitely true. Okay. Good night. Okay. Oh, I always like, it always makes me laugh when someone's like, you seem racist towards Muslims and Islam. Guys, Islam is not a race, so like if you want to accuse me of something, at least like figure out what you're accusing me of because Islam is not a race. Muslims are not a race, so just like I don't know, if you're upset, go to another channel. I don't know what to say. It's just like they just throw anything at the wall and just expect it to stick, right? Um, okay. In Morocco. Oh yeah, oh my gosh, okay. I don't know about this. So Morocco is fighting the Muslim Brotherhood. I know that for sure. Like, so Morocco is an example. Okay, so guys, if you want to understand what Iran was like prior to the 1979 Islamic takeover, Iran was very similar to Morocco. Morocco was definitely more Muslim. However, Morocco is still very open, right? Like I visited Morocco this summer and I had a fantastic time. Like I loved it, right? Because it's 99% Muslim and yet um, people are still free to dress how they want to dress. You can go to stores and buy alcohol or whatever, and women in Morocco are allowed to ride bicycles and motorcycles. Women in Iran are not allowed to ride bicycles or motorcycles because it's considered haram. Okay, so again, so for all the Muslims who are here, when I'm talking about Islamic extremism, I'm referring to the Islamic Republic and that ideology in occupied Iran, because many of you guys don't understand how ridiculous or how crazy the Islamic Republic really is. Again, Morocco is a 99% Muslim country, beautiful culture. Um, Muslim women are allowed to ride motorcycles and bicycles. Iranian women are not allowed to ride motorcycles or bicycles because, according to the Islamic Republic's version of Sharia law, that's haram for women. So, just to give you a little bit of context and perspective, when I'm talking about Iran and what's happening in Iran with the Islamic Republic, I'm literally referring to the Islamic Republic. And that's one of the things I always want to make a distinction. Like, I'm never here to talk about religion. I respect all religions, I respect all faiths. my goal is to raise awareness about Islamofascist jihadi terrorism. Okay, like that's my goal here. That is my intention. And there are actually a lot of Iranian Muslims who are fighting to overthrow the Islamic Republic as well, because again, Iran used to be a majority Muslim country prior to 1979, but when that Islamic dictatorship came in and turned Iran into the hellhole it is today, that turned off many people from the concept of religion in its entirety. So I just want to make that distinction very clear. Okay. Gil, what's my opinion of PBD? Is he a net positive? I mean, I'm neutral. I'm neutral. I'm neutral. I don't know him that well. I do have some personal criticisms of things he has said recently about Iran and Iranian politics, but I don't think he's a bad person. I don't think anything like that. I don't disrespect him. I don't hate him. Um, I just think we have um, disagreement on opinions when it comes to Iran currently. Let's put it that way. And I think, and that's okay. Like people are allowed to um, disagree with each other's opinions when it comes to politics. It doesn't mean you hate them. It doesn't mean you think they're a bad person. So yeah, I just, I think there's certain things I disagree, but I don't know him personally, so I don't have like an opinion on him personally. I just don't know him that well. Okay. Just want to scroll down here, make sure I get, okay, so I definitely want to get to all your comments here. Jane sentence. Okay, thank you so much. All right, guys. So I think I'm going to stop it here. I've tried to get through as many of your questions and comments as I can. I apologize if I didn't get to all of them, but it is getting a little bit late and I do have to go to sleep. But I want to thank you all for joining. So again, this documentary, I will give it a 7 out of 10. That's what we agreed upon, all the Iranians here. And yeah, I will see you all tomorrow at 12 noon for another regular episode of the Goldie Show. There you go. My YouTube channel. All right, thank you everyone for joining. I hope you appreciated this AMA. If you appreciate the AMA, I will try to do more of them. But for now, Payande Iran Javid Shah.